Yeah, for those of you that have missed it, I'm talking to Tripper Clancy here at the 2019 Austin Film Festival, and we were just talking about your experience at UT for grad school in film. So you were a TA and you were there for screenwriting, but they've got several different tracks there.
They do, yeah. The screenwriting program, I don't know if it's changed, but when I was there were 7 of us in the program.
Okay.
And so we really got to know each other over the course of 2 years.
Yeah, it's pretty compact there.
But it was great because we didn't have that many classes. So usually we'd have like a 3-hour-long class, and then we'd walk like with our professor across the street to a bar and have a couple beers.
Yes.
Continue the class in a more casual setting. So it was like a very fun time. It felt like no responsibility, and all I had to do was write scripts and teach a couple of intro classes. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds perfect. I had a professor in London that was like, well, we're talking about Dickens today, so meet me at the King's Head over in Temple Bar and we'll discuss Dickens. And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can do that. I'll be there.
That's the biggest difference between undergrad and grad school. I was like, oh wait, we can drink with our professors.
Yeah,
now.
I'm just gonna sit here
this is
and
great.
Let's pour.
This is how education actually works.
Yeah, you get there and the professor is already like 3 pints in. You're like, all right,
okay.
Education, man.
You're always learning.
Absolutely. Well, talking about grad school, like, some people in the film and TV industry, people get there by all directions.
Yes.
Like people come from other industries or they come up from a similar medium, radio or theater or something like that. But a lot of people, kind of have a little bit of an attitude towards university programs like, you don't need that. You don't need that. You can get in without it. So,
totally.
Coming from a prestigious grad school program, like in your opinion, like what is the role of like that formal training in the industry?
Yeah, I think there's like a million different ways to break in, like you said, and I don't prescribe film school to everybody. It's
universally,
it's not for everyone. And for me, I went to a college, Wake Forest in North Carolina, and Wake, I loved it, but it only had a couple of film classes.
Sure.
And so I felt like I still didn't have any clue what I was doing, and I'd read a couple screenwriting books, and I felt like for me, I wanted an experience where I could learn more about how to structure just the craft of screenwriting. And so that's, for me, it was great. And it doesn't really like give you any advantage, I don't feel like, over anyone else in LA. But what it does is it gives you an opportunity to write a bunch of bad scripts. And that's what I did. And then when you move to LA, hopefully you start writing better ones. That's like how it's supposed to work. But yeah, you learn a lot and you get all the bad ones kind of out of your system. It's harder to do that when you're working a 50-hour job or a 60-hour job.
Sure.
It's easier kind of in a school setting.
Yeah. Where are you spending those 50 and 60 hours this week? What's taking up your time lately?
Right now I'm working on a couple of TV projects. One of them is Varsity Blues, which is a Texas based in Texas. I actually said like, I don't want your life in the pitch when I sold it.
Did you say like with the twang, and did you like?
I did the full twang.
Full
twang, and I'm too embarrassed to do it here on camera because this is like a historical record. I don't want it out there.
You're from Dallas. You've already betrayed yourself, bro. You may as well do it.
I don't want your laugh.
Yes.
That's probably the best. And I don't know if that sounds like George W. Bush, maybe. I don't know what that accent is, but it's the best I can do.
Yeah, I'm not sure where James Van Der Beek is from originally, but I don't think he's a rural Texan. No,
but it's that movie came out as I was finishing high school, so it was like
I remember, yeah.
It hit home to me, and so I sold that with the original writer and the original producer, and we sold it to Quibi, which is like kind of a new platform. And so I just turned in the first 6 episodes. Quibi works in 10-page formats.
Okay.
So the first 60 minutes basically is what I've just turned in to the studio. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully nothing derails in the process, and by next summer or sometime you'll be able to see it on Quibi if you have the Quibi app.
Hey, it's the race for content. Like there's so many ways to get good stories now. It's hard to keep up.
It's really crazy. Yeah, it is. I think there's some that have kind of like flashed and then failed. A couple of
Sure.
things that started, but now you're seeing more like with like serious financing behind it. You know, when like Quibi, I think was they raised $1 billion to launch Quibi.
Wow.
And then if you think about like the Peacock, you know, like that has NBC Universal behind it.
Sure.
Disney Plus, obviously massive. So it's like you're seeing these places that have war chests to buy and produce content.
Sure.
Which I think is going to be an interesting time, because I think a few years ago there were places that tried to do it but maybe didn't have that much, because it's difficult. Like you know, making content that people want to see. You know, there's a lot of things vying for your attention right now.
Right.
And so you have to, I think, the only way to do it is to just like have a blitzkrieg of a ton of content, and that's why there's such a race for all this stuff, Netflix and Amazon and everyone else. So,
how do you get attention as a writer in that? I mean, granted, you've been on this game for a while now, but I mean, do you bring your own kind of blitz of content, like just creating as much as you possibly can and see who bites?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so a lot of what I have done over the years is called open writing assignments, and that's basically the studio has some form of IP, like they have the rights to a book.
Sure.
And then I will go pitch on my take how I would adapt that book. And so a lot of what I've done is being hired by studios to write things that they already have in the system. But when I'm not doing those, I always challenge myself to write a spec, write something original, and either try to sell it, try to package it with a filmmaker, or just get something out of my system, get something just to be creative, where I'm the only boss in the room, and I can write whatever the hell I want, and no one can tell me no.
Yeah.
And sometimes those things lead to more work, or those things sell and become movies. And either way, it's vital to the process, I think, to create something original.
Yeah.
And you lose sight of that. I think friends of mine that are writers that work assignments or that are on TV shows for a long time, it's like you forget that like you have the power to just like sit down and write anything you want.
Right.
And so it's just a very fun. It's like brings me back to like film school basically. Like there's no rules. I just get to have fun.
How do you transition between having an independent project where you're the sole content creator versus like a writer's room format where it's proceeded and now we've got a team working on this?
Totally. Yeah. Can I curse on this?
Totally.
Okay. So like I think the big rule of just in the industry in general is don't be an asshole.
Sure.
And I feel like that goes double for being in a writer's room, because it is a collaborative experience, and you need to be in a room if you can, and you can't always do this, where the best idea wins. But there's also some kind of decorum about how to present that idea, and waiting for someone else to finish, presenting their idea, even if like halfway through you're feeling like this isn't going to work, but you're just going to hear them out and give them their chance to speak. And then, and the most fun I think is kind of riffing on someone else's idea and being like, that what you said is not right, but there's a lot of what you said I think could work if we did this. And that's like the most productive days. We would have days, I was in the room on a Netflix show that's called I Am Not Okay With This, that'll be out in the new year. And we would have days that were like basically in an hour we might solve everything,
right,
or feel like we did, and we'd have like 2 or 3 day stretches where you're like this show is never going to work.
Yeah.
None of this works.
Go pull some teeth.
Yeah, we're just in a bad hole, and that's pretty much every show from TV writer friends of mine. Like every show has that where it's like we should just pull the plug. Like we don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But at least you're in it together with other people, so you don't feel as horrible as you would if you're on your own.
All right, so tell me so as a writer, you talk about doing stuff on your own where you don't have to edit so much, like, oh gosh, are they going to like this? You can just get whatever it is out of your system. But when you've made something that you're just like, oh my gosh, this page is like, this is like my golden child, darling in the middle of it. When the whole thing's not working, and sometimes you come down to your golden child and you're like, this is the thing that's like not quite fitting with the rest of it. Like, how do you bring yourself to let go of an idea, whether it's on your own or in the writer's room where you're like, this just isn't that?
It's difficult. It's really hard. I mean, when I'm on my own, I don't kill any of my darlings. Like everything gets to stay. But it's when a producer comes on board or a studio, and it's funny. So every time you get a round of notes, all the notes do is make the thing longer. And so, because it's like we want to dig deeper into this character and in this story arc, and we want to expand this. It's like everything. The notes are never about shortening.
Yeah.
But then the last note you get is like, we want you to do all of that, and we want you to lose 10 pages from the script.
Yes.
And so, almost inevitably on every project, there'll be a time where I've fallen in love with every scene I've got in there, and I have to figure out how to lose 10 or 12 pages. And surprisingly, once you get in that mode where I have to do it, it becomes a lot easier.
Really?
Yeah. It's like you start to really question, like, okay, is this scene essential? Is it moving plot and character at the same time? And if it's not, I'll strip it away. If I strip this away, sometimes you're like, this has been essential, and you strip it. And if I strip it away, wait, actually, like, nothing really changes. And it's like, that's kind of crazy. And then you start, like, finding those pieces. And then sometimes you're just, like, trying to find, like, what they call widows, like one word that dangles on a second line of a description.
Right.
And sometimes you're just, like, cutting those and
just the margins.
Slowly, yeah. I never do the
0.9.
margins. Margins would be like if like, I was behind a deadline and, like, the whole world was writing on it. I never touch the font or the margins or anything, because I feel like they're going to find out.
Integrity.
And I'm going to be, like, blacklisted. Exactly. Yeah. I try to keep a little bit of integrity.
Well, you're talking about spare parts. It just reminded me of something. I was not going to ask you about this, but it came to mind because you were talking about finding the spares. There are a few screenwriters I have in mind where roles for women have really evolved over the last 10 years. I wrote my senior thesis in film school about roles for women in action film.
Yeah.
But really, it can apply in any genre. And so often the roles for the women, even the strong women, are very much, when you strip it down, you're like, that's a spare part. Like, you could take that character out completely and it wouldn't matter at all.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear you bring up that thing, like, you find where the spares are. So how do you, I mean, not even just speaking specifically about female characters, but making every character essential and contributing to the story. Like, how do you build a character
so
like
that's something
that?
When I read, like, younger writers' scripts and to, like, give them input and advice, I find a lot of extraneous stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
And those are scenes that don't need to be there, and there are characters that don't need to be there. And it really starts with kind of how you design it from the beginning, the concept, and every character. Not every character. You might have a role of, like, waiter at the diner that has, like, one speaking line or whatever. Not every character, but all your main characters, they need to be driving plot, and they need to be having an impact on your other characters. And if they're not, then I think they can go away. So the easiest way, I think this kind of applies, is, for me, every single scene has to have conflict in it. It has to have people wanting different things. And we're watching the negotiation, and that is how I think you get conflict, you get humor, you get emotional stakes. All those things come when you have two people that want different things, and if you do that, that usually makes those characters essential to the story. So that's probably my best advice on that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about. I was at a baby film festival. It was its first year. I think it's 12 years old now. Near here, about 10 or 12 years ago, and I saw this short film called Just One of the Gynos.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. So that was written by you, and I don't know, was it meant to be a TV pilot originally?
No, it was just I was basically banging my head against the wall as, like, trying to sell specs, and I was like, well, maybe I can just write a short film instead. And what surprised me about that was actually, like, calling up agencies and being like, I have a short film script. I would like your actor that you represent to read it. And I was surprised that a number of them were like, okay, send it over.
Sure.
And I was like, wow. I mean, we weren't going to Brad Pitt, obviously.
Right.
But, like, we did get, the actors we got in, and we had Carol Potter from 90210 and Creed Bratton from The Office, and Kyle Gass from Tenacious D. And it was like, all those people got it through their agents, and that blew my mind for a short film, which they were being paid, guild minimum for a short. But it was really cool. It was really helpful for me to write something knowing actors were going to read it. Sometimes when you're writing a spec, when you're breaking in, you just don't picture anybody, and you're just kind of writing it for the marketplace. When you really think about an actor has to read the script and say, I want to play that role, that really changes the way you approach a script, I think.
All right, so if you know a project is going somewhere and maybe you're in the rewrite phase, I'm thinking of Stuber, which premiered at South by Southwest this year. When did, or do you even think about what actors are going to be in this, and what kind of, when you have a celebrity actor coming in, what kind of connotations are they bringing with them, that the audience has kind of tagged them with? Yeah,
and I think I think when we took the script out to buyers, I think you can mention actors that just put kind of a vision in their brain.
Yeah, Yeah,
exactly. So I think it was think of a Bruce Willis or Liam Neeson type, and a Kevin Hart or a Jonah Hill. I can't remember or Michael Cera maybe, but we mentioned some names like that, but those weren't really the names that probably we wanted in the movie,
right?
Because we had mentioned people that had played roles like that already, and a big thing and a lot of credit to Mike Dowse, the director, and the producers and the studio, is we wanted to put characters in the roles that haven't played those roles before.
Yeah.
Because that would make it feel fresh, and we did that. So it's one thing as a marketing tool to say think of this actor, but when you actually comes down to production, you want to find people that are kind of uniquely matched for the characters. And
it was such a cool, unique cast. So where in the I don't know when you find out who is going, and since you're not the director, that's a whole new dimension to it. But when you're kind of retooling the script, if you have a pretty good idea of who might be in that role, do you start adjusting it for that actor particularly? Yeah, for sure. If you're, the studio will ask you to do a pass sometimes, keeping in mind a specific actor, and so and sometimes you end up not even getting that actor, and it's you did a couple weeks of work to change something, it doesn't matter. But it's weird. It's not just most actors. There's probably some that you can just back up a money truck and just be like, all right, here's the money, and they'll just go do it. But most actors, it's about the role and about the character, and is what's this bringing to their career. And so the character pass does make a big difference. I feel like anything you can do to increase your odds just a little bit of getting the actor to say yes is helpful. Yeah. Have you directed yourself? Do you have any aspirations to direct? I did in college. I made a couple shorts that I directed, but I do down the line. My thing is, there are people that are directors, and that's what they do, and they're very good at it. And I write scripts, and I think I'm okay at it, and so I still feel like I'm at a place in my career where I want to kind of stay in my lane, just continue to write. Also, people don't really realize directing a movie is a massive chunk of your life. Yes. You don't have other projects on the side. I've got 2 kids, and it's you're going to be away from your family. Yeah, it's a weight on your shoulders. It's a big deal in post and everything. So it can take a year and a half, 2 years, a lot of stress, and it's I really enjoy writing, and so I think one day I might pull the trigger if someone is silly enough to pay me to do that or give me funding to do that, but right now I'm just happy writing. Yeah. Do you think that would change you as a writer to you have kind of the live or die thing on whether a scene stays? Yeah, no, it was there's a freedom of being a writer where it's the pressure is not, the pressure's on you at certain moments, but at the end of the day, you're giving them this blueprint to go make this thing, and it's kind of I think it's different when you're a director. It's it's all on you. You have to bring that thing home. You have to deliver it. At this point, the map's not working, and we're going to improvise. Exactly. So that's a different kind of stress that I'd probably prefer to live without. All right. Stress free. Well, we are excited to see this new TV show in the coming year. So that's going to be on. That'll be on Netflix. Netflix. Okay. Yep. I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with this, and then hopefully Varsity Blues on Quibi sometime next year. All right. So we'll look for that in January. I think February. Springish. March. Yeah. Springish. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, hope to see you back in Austin soon. You Texas guy. Okay. One more time. Look right into the camera. Do the line. Do a line.
I don't want your laugh.
Tripper.
Better?
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.